Commander Kethver walked slowly into the big room where young soldiers were sitting. His green skin had many scars from old battles. The young Zephyrian cadets looked at him with wide eyes. They had heard stories about this old warrior who fought in the Great War with humans 15 years ago. The room became very quiet. Kethver moved to the front desk, his metal leg making soft clicking sounds on the floor. He looked at all the young faces staring at him. These students thought they knew about war from their books and computer lessons. You read about human fighting in your books, Kethver said in his deep, rough voice. You study their battle plans. You memorize their attack methods. But you do not understand what it really means to fight next to humans, or against them. A young female cadet put up her hand. She looked nervous, but curious. Commanders, sir, our teachers tell us humans follow the same war rules as everyone else in the galaxy. Kethver made a short laugh that sounded bitter and cold. Rules. Young one, humans made their own rules long before they ever left their home planet. What you call impossible fighting methods, they just call another day at work. He pressed a button and blue lights filled the air, showing maps of stars and planets from the old war. The cadets leaned forward to see better. I was leading many soldiers when we first met human warriors. We thought they were just regular fighters like us. We believed they understood honor and when to give up fighting. Kethver's yellow eyes became distant, like he was seeing things from long ago. We were wrong about everything. Completely wrong. The old commander's sharp claws tapped on the metal desk, making small, ringing sounds. Today, I will tell you about Sergeant Kim and his team. I will tell you about Medic Park, who saved my life when I was dying. I will tell you about Lieutenant Lee, who became like a ghost that enemies could not catch. He paused and looked around the room. These were not their real names. Humans often picked simple names that our alien tongues could say easily. But what they did in battle. He stopped talking for a moment. What they did changed everything we thought war could be. A male cadet moved uncomfortably in his chair. His blue skin was getting paler as he listened. Sir, surely you are making the stories bigger than they really were. Humans cannot be that different from us. Am I making it bigger? Kethver asked, his voice getting harder. His eyes looked at every student in the room. Tell me, how long can your people fight without food, without water, without any hope of winning? Nobody answered. The room was so quiet, they could hear the air moving through the vents. Humans taught me the answer to that question. They can fight as long as they need to fight, as long as it takes to protect what they care about. Kethver walked closer to the students. When I first saw human soldiers, they looked small and weak compared to us. We Zephyrians are bigger and stronger. Our skin is like armor. Our claws can cut through metal. We thought these soft pink creatures would be easy to defeat or easy to protect. He shook his head slowly. But humans do not win fights because they are big or strong. They win because they never stop thinking of new ways to fight. While we follow our training exactly, humans change their plans every few minutes. A cadet asked quietly, What do you mean, sir? I mean they see things differently than we do. When we see a broken machine, we see junk. When humans see a broken machine, they see parts for 10 different weapons. When we see a hopeless situation, we prepare to die with honor. When humans see a hopeless situation, they get angry and start planning how to make their enemies pay for every step forward. Kethver stopped walking and faced the students directly. In our culture, we have rules about fighting. We do not attack medical workers. We do not use certain weapons. We surrender when we cannot win. These rules make sense to us. They keep war from becoming completely terrible. He leaned on the desk, his old wounds making him wince slightly. Humans have rules too, but their rules are different. Their main rule is simple. Protect your people, no matter what it costs. Everything else comes second. The room was very still. Some cadets looked scared, Others looked excited. All of them wanted to hear more. The war taught me that humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years, Kethfer continued. Every trick they used against alien enemies, they had already used against other humans. Every impossible escape, every crazy battle plan, every way of turning normal things into weapons, they learned it all by fighting their own kind. He straightened up slowly. Tomorrow, I will tell you about Kepler Station, where Sergeant Kim showed me that humans do not believe in impossible situations. I will tell you how 5 human soldiers held off 200 enemy warriors, using mining equipment and pure stubbornness. Kethfer started walking toward the door. Remember this tonight, as you sleep. Humans are not just our allies now. They are our teachers, and they are teaching us that everything we thought we knew about war was just the beginning. The door closed behind him, leaving the young cadets sitting in shocked silence. The next day, Commander Kethfer returned to the classroom. The young cadets were already sitting in their chairs, waiting quietly. Their faces showed they had been thinking about his words all night. Kethfer pressed the button again and blue lights filled the air. This time the lights showed a large space station floating between stars. It looked like a giant metal rock with towers and tubes sticking out of it. Kepler Station was a mining place, Kethfer began. Workers dug valuable metals from asteroids. There. It was supposed to be a safe, easy job for us. We were just supposed to go in, get some people out, and leave. He pointed at the glowing station. But the Vorthan raiders got there first. Vorthans are bad people who steal and kill for money. They had many ships and many soldiers. We only had 30 warriors with us. A cadet raised her hand. Sir, what did you do when you saw so many enemies? What any smart commander would do, Kethfer replied. I prepared to surrender. When you cannot win, you save lives by giving up. This is basic military thinking that every species in the galaxy understands. The old commander walked slowly around the room, but Sergeant Kim looked at me with those strange human eyes. They were dark brown, like deep water. He said very calmly, Commander, we are not dead yet. As if this explained everything, Kethfer stopped walking and faced the students. I told him we had no chance. The Vorthans had us trapped in the lower parts of the station. Our big weapons were broken. Our escape ships were destroyed. We had food for maybe 2 days. What did Sergeant Kim say? Asked a male cadet. He smiled. Actually smiled, like someone had told him a funny joke. Then he said, Good thing this is a mining station. I did not understand what he meant. The blue lights changed to show the inside of the station. There were long halls full of big machines and thick pipes. Kim talked quickly to his 4 human soldiers. I could not hear everything, but I heard words like laser drill and or processor and gravity controls. Kethfer's voice got quieter. Then the humans disappeared, just vanished into the small tunnels that workers used to fix machines. My Zephyrian soldiers and I waited in the main area, ready to fight until we died with honor. He paused and looked at each cadet. What happened next taught me that humans do not think like other people. While we prepared our weapons for one last battle, Kim and his team were turning the entire station into a weapon. The lights showed different parts of the station. First, we heard strange sounds from the walls. Banging and cutting and welding. The Vorthans heard it too. They thought we were trying to break through to escape. A cadet asked, what were the humans really doing? Kim was changing the mining laser that cuts through asteroids. Somehow, he made it point down the main hallway instead of out into space. When the Vorthans charged toward us, they ran straight into a beam that could melt rock. Kethfer's scales seemed to shiver as he remembered. But that was just the beginning. The OR processing machines that crushed big rocks into small pieces. Kim's team turned them into bomb makers. Every few minutes, chunks of metal came flying at the Vorthans from unexpected directions. The commander continued his story. Private J found the gravity controls. These machines keep people's feet on the floor in space. She made the gravity turn on and off in different areas. Vorthan soldiers would run around a corner and suddenly float up to the ceiling, or get pushed down so hard they could not move. A female cadet looked confused. Sir, how did they know how to change all these machines? They were not engineers. That is exactly what I asked Kim, Kethver replied. He said, Commander, when you grow up poor, you learn to fix everything yourself, and if you can fix it, you can change it. The old warrior's voice got excited as he remembered more details. Corporal Min took the communication system that workers used to talk to each other. He made it play horrible sounds through the whole station. Screaming noises and loud music, and recordings of human children laughing. The Vorthans started shooting at speakers in the walls, wasting their ammunition on nothing. Kethver walked back to the front desk. For 6 hours, 5 humans turned a simple mining station into a nightmare place. The Vorthans could not understand what was happening. Their weapons worked fine, but everything else was trying to kill them. How did it end? Asked a cadet. Kim appeared in the main hallway, holding a mining drill that he had somehow attached to his rifle. He was covered in oil and metal dust, and he was humming a song. Behind him, the ore processor was launching chunks of asteroid rock like cannon balls. Kethver smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The Vorthans ran away. 200 experienced raiders, defeated by 5 humans and some mining equipment. When our rescue ships arrived, they found Kim welding a gravity generator to a food cart, still humming his work song. The commander's expression grew serious. That day, I learned my first lesson about humans. They do not see obstacles. They see raw materials waiting to become solutions. The room was completely quiet as the cadets tried to imagine such impossible things. Commander Kethver walked into the classroom on the 3rd day. The young cadets were already there, sitting very still and quiet. Their eyes followed him as he moved to the front of the room. The blue lights appeared again, showing a different place this time. It looked like a medical camp with white tents and Red Cross symbols. Smoke was rising from holes in the ground where bombs had exploded. This is where I met Corman Park, Kethver said softly. Hadrian's world was a terrible place during the war. The ground was always shaking from explosions. The air smelled like burning metal and fear. He pointed at the largest white tent. In the picture, Park worked in the main medical tent. He was young, maybe 25 human years. He had gentle hands and a quiet voice. When he worked on wounded soldiers, he would hum soft songs. A cadet asked, "What was special about this?" "Medic, sir." Kethver's yellow eyes became distant. Park saved my life twice in one day. Once as a healer, once as a killer. I still do not understand how the same person could do both things. The commander walked closer to the students. I was badly hurt during a morning battle. Vorthan weapons had burned through my armor and into my chest. My green blood was everywhere. Other Zephyrian medics said I would die. He touched a long scar on his chest that was visible through his uniform. But Park looked at my wounds and said, "Not today." He worked on me for 4 hours without stopping. His hands never shook, not even when bombs exploded close to our tent. The lights changed to show the inside of the medical tent. There were beds with wounded soldiers from many different planets. Some had blue skin like Zephyrians. Others had gray skin like Vorthons. A few had the pink skin of humans. Park treated everyone the same, Kethver continued. Friend or enemy, it did not matter to him. There was a Vorthan raider on the bed next to mine. This same Vorthan had been shooting at us that morning, trying to kill us. A male cadet looked confused. "Sir, why would the medic help an enemy?" I asked Park the same question. Kethver replied. He said, "When someone is hurt and scared, they stop being an enemy. They become just another person who needs help." He spent 6 hours operating on that Vorthan, saving his life. The commander's voice got softer. Park sang while he worked. Quiet human songs about home and family. His hands were so gentle when he cleaned wounds and gave medicine. I watched him hold the hand of a dying soldier from another planet, speaking softly until the soldier felt peaceful. Kethver paused and looked around the room. I thought I understood humans after watching Park work. I thought they were just very kind people who cared about everyone. The lights changed to show the same medical tent, but now there were explosions very close by. Red warning lights were flashing. Then the Vorthans broke through our defense lines. Kethver said, his voice getting harder. Enemy soldiers were running straight toward the medical tent. Standard rules say medical workers should surrender or run away. They are not supposed to fight. A female cadet leaned forward. What happened next, sir? Park looked up from his patient. It was still that same Vorthan raider he had been saving. Park's hands were covered in the enemy's blood from the surgery. He looked very calm, like nothing important was happening. Kethver's scales began to change color slightly, the way they did when he was remembering something frightening. Park asked a nurse for his alternative medical kit. I thought he meant different medicine or bandages. The commander shook his head slowly, but when Park opened that kit, I saw things that gave me nightmares. Weapons hidden inside medical supply boxes. Knives that looked like surgical tools but were really made for fighting. Small bombs disguised as medicine bottles. The cadets were completely quiet now, hardly breathing. For 20 minutes, the gentle medic, who sang soft songs, became death itself. Kethver continued. He moved like a dancer, but every move killed an enemy soldier. Medical supplies became smoke bombs that blinded attackers. Surgical tools became throwing weapons that never missed their targets. He walked to the window and looked out at the sky. Park used an IV stand, the metal pole that holds medicine bags like a spear. He stabbed 3 Vorthan soldiers with it. He turned oxygen tanks into explosive devices. Even bandages became traps that caught enemies. Kethver turned back to face his students. The most frightening part was his face. During the fight, Park looked exactly the same as when he was saving lives, calm, focused. Like this was just another part of his job. A cadet asked in a whisper, how could he change so fast? When the fighting ended, Park immediately went back to his surgery. Kethver replied. His hands were steady again. He continued saving the Vorthan raider's life, as if nothing had happened. He even started humming his soft songs again. The commander sat on the edge of his desk. Later, the Vorthan raider asked me, how can humans be both angel and demon at the same time? I could not answer then. He looked directly at each cadet. Now I understand. Humans do not see any conflict between healing and killing. When healing is needed, they heal perfectly. When killing is needed, they kill perfectly. No hesitation, no confusion, just complete focus on what the situation requires. Kethver's voice became very quiet. That is what makes humans so dangerous. They can love you and kill for you in the same moment. Commander Kethver entered the classroom on the 4th day. The young cadets looked nervous and excited. They had been talking about his stories between classes. Some had trouble sleeping after hearing about Corman Park. The blue lights showed a new place this time. It was a dark research station built inside a big rock floating in space. The station looked like a maze of tunnels and rooms cut deep into the asteroid. Lieutenant Lee's story still gives me bad dreams, Kethver admitted, his voice quieter than usual. Titan Base was a secret research place where scientists studied alien technology. When our army had to retreat, everyone was supposed to leave on the escape ships. He pointed at the dark tunnels on the display. But one person volunteered to stay behind. Lieutenant Lee said he would destroy the important research files so enemies could not steal them. It should have been a simple job. Go in, destroy the computers, activate the self-destruct system, and escape in a small ship. A cadet raised her hand. What went wrong, sir? Kethver's yellow eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. Everything went wrong. Lee's escape ship was destroyed by enemy fire before he could leave. The self-destruct system was damaged and would not work, and 300 Vorthan soldiers were coming to take over the base. The commander walked slowly around the room. Lee sent one message to our fleet: escape route destroyed. We'll hold position as long as possible. Then his radio went silent. We thought he was dead. The lights showed the layout of the base more clearly. There were many small tunnels connecting larger rooms. Air vents ran between all the levels like a spider web of metal tubes. The Vorthans thought the base was empty when they arrived. Kethver continued. Their scans showed only one human life. Sign, and humans are small. 300 soldiers against one seemed like easy work. He stopped walking and faced the students. But strange things started happening immediately. Patrol groups would go into the tunnels and never come back. Security cameras would show soldiers walking down a hallway. Then the cameras would go dark, then turn back on to show empty hallways. A male cadet looked confused. Where did the soldiers go? Nobody knew, Kethver replied. The missing soldiers were found hours later in storage rooms, unconscious but alive. They could not remember what happened to them. Some talked about hearing whispers in the walls. Others said they saw shadows moving in impossible ways. The commander's voice got lower and more frightening. Equipment started breaking in weird ways. Weapons would jam at exactly the wrong moment. Communication devices would make horrible sounds instead of carrying messages. Food supplies would disappear, but the packages would be found empty in places nobody could reach. Kethver used the lights to show different parts of the base. Lee had learned every tunnel, every air vent, every maintenance shaft during his 3 years stationed there, but more importantly, he understood something that we aliens do not understand very well. What was that, sir? Asked a female cadet. Fear, Kethver answered simply. Lee understood that fear is a weapon more powerful than any gun or bomb. He did not try to fight 300 soldiers. Instead, he made those soldiers afraid of everything around them. The commander described what the Vorthan reports said later. Soldiers would hear children laughing in empty rooms. Lights would flicker in patterns that looked like faces. Doors would slam shut by themselves, trapping soldiers in dark places for hours. Lee used the research station's equipment in ways the scientists never imagined, Kethver continued. He connected the air system to the computer speakers. Suddenly, whispers and strange music came from every vent in the base. He changed the lighting controls so shadows would move when nobody was there. A cadet asked, "But how did one human scare so many experienced warriors?" Kethver smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Because Lee had spent his childhood watching human horror movies. He told me later that humans create scary stories for entertainment. They know exactly what frightens people because they frighten each other for fun. The lights showed security camera footage of Vorthan soldiers running through hallways, shooting at shadows and empty air. Some were crying. Others were talking to themselves in scared voices. For 3 weeks, Lieutenant Lee turned himself into a living ghost story, Kethver said. He would appear behind soldiers, just long enough for them to see him, then vanish into the walls. He left messages written in their own blood on mirrors. He played recordings of their own voices, saying things they never said. The commander's expression grew serious. The Vorthans started refusing to go on patrol. They demanded that their commanders call for orbital bombing to destroy the entire base, rather than continue trying to occupy it. 300 trained soldiers, defeated by one human and their own imaginations. Kethver walked back to his desk. When we finally retook the base, we found Lee in the command center. He was so thin and weak he could barely stand, but he was still watching enemy communications and planning new ways to scare them. He looked at each cadet carefully. We asked him how he survived for 3 weeks with almost no food or water. Lee just smiled and said, "I was not alone. I had their fear to keep me company." The room was completely silent. Some cadets were looking over their shoulders at the empty corners of the classroom. That day I learned that humans have been scaring each other for thousands of years, Kethver concluded. They know which fears live in every thinking mind. Lee did not just fight enemies. He reached into their thoughts and turned their own minds against them. Commander Kethver walked into the classroom for the fifth and final day. The young cadets sat very straight in their chairs. Their faces showed they had been thinking deeply about all the stories he had told them during the week. The blue lights appeared one last time, but now they showed no battle scenes or space stations. Instead, they displayed simple pictures of human soldiers doing everyday things, like eating meals and writing letters home. You have heard my stories about Sergeant Kim, Corman Park, and Lieutenant Lee Kethver, began slowly. Now you want to know the real truth about human warfare, do you not? The cadets nodded eagerly. They had been waiting for this moment all week. Kethver walked to the center of the room. The truth is simple, but it will change how you think about everything. Every impossible trick I saw humans use in our war had been used before. Not against aliens, against other humans. A female cadet looked confused. Sir, I do not understand. Humans have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years, the commander explained. While our species learned to fight by hunting animals or defending territory, humans learned to fight by killing other humans. Every generation taught the next generation better ways to win battles. He gestured to the pictures of human soldiers. Kim's ability to turn mining equipment into weapons. Human engineers had been doing that in their wars for centuries. Park's skill at healing and killing. Human combat medics developed those abilities during hundreds of different conflicts on their home planet. Kethver's voice grew more serious. Lee's talent for psychological warfare. Humans have been scaring their enemies with ghost stories and fear tactics since they lived in caves. What we saw as impossible creativity, they saw as basic military knowledge passed down from their ancestors. A male cadet raised his hand. Sir, that makes humans sound like they are naturally violent and dangerous. The old commander shook his head. No, young one. It makes them the most effective soldiers in the galaxy. And now they fight beside us instead of against us. He pressed a button, and the lights changed to show a current picture of their own military academy. Kim now teaches tactical improvisation at the War College on Zephy Prime. Students from 12 different planets learned from him how to see ordinary objects as potential weapons. The cadets looked surprised. They had not expected the humans from the stories to still be alive and working. Park runs the Advanced Medical Combat Training Program, Kethver continued. He teaches medics from across the galaxy how to save lives under fire and defend their patients when necessary. His students learn that healing and fighting are both forms of protecting people you care about. A cadet asked, "What about Lieutenant Lee, sir? Does he teach too?" Kethver's expression became more serious. Lee works as a consultant for our Psychological Operations Division. He helps our military understand how fear affects different species in combat. He also designs training programs that prepares soldiers for mental pressure during battles. The commander walked closer to his students. But the most important thing they all teach is this. Humans do not fight to win wars. They fight to make sure their people survive. That changes everything about how they approach conflict. He pointed at each cadet as he spoke. When we fight, we follow rules of honor. We accept defeat when continuing seems hopeless. We try to minimize damage and casualties. These are good things that show we are civilized people. Kethver's voice got stronger. But humans follow a different rule that comes before all others. Protect your family and friends no matter what it costs. Everything else is secondary. Honor, rules, even their own lives become less important than keeping their people safe. The lights showed pictures of human families and children playing in parks. This is what drives them in battle. Not glory, or conquest, or even survival for themselves. They fight because they know that if they fail, these innocent people will suffer. A female cadet spoke quietly. Sir, How can we learn to fight like humans without becoming like them? The commander smiled, his first real smile in days. An excellent question. The answer is that we do not need to become like humans. We need to learn from them while staying true to ourselves. He walked back to his desk. The human military advisor, assigned to this academy, arrived yesterday evening. Some of you will train under her guidance starting next week. Her name is Colonel Yoon. She commanded the medical units during the Hadrian World campaign. The cadets exchanged nervous looks. They remembered the story about Corman Park and wondered what his commander might be like. Colonel Yoon will teach you advanced combat theory and tactical thinking, Kethver continued. But she will also teach you the most important lesson humans can share with us. He paused dramatically. That lesson is this. There is no force in the universe more dangerous than people who decide that someone threatens their family. Learn this, understand this. Because now that humans are our allies, we have the strongest protectors in the galaxy watching over all of us. Kethver moved toward the door, then stopped and looked back at his students one final time. Oh, and cadets. When Colonel Yoon asks if you want to see her alternative teaching methods, say yes. Trust an old soldier on this. You will learn things that no textbook can teach you. As the door closed behind him, the young cadets sat in amazed silence. Each one wondered what incredible things they would learn from their new human instructors. Outside the classroom, Colonel Yoon was already preparing her first lesson plan, humming softly while she worked.